Webcast. Tonight, the webcast is on Love Never Ends. And this is a topic that I've kind of been surrounded by for the last few months as I've been writing a book with the same title, The Love Never Ends, and have the manuscript turned in. That's done, on its way to the printer. But it's a topic that's really been surrounding me, many of my clients and students and friends. I'm sure some of you have noticed over the last several weeks that there have been a lot of people experiencing a lot of transition. And I had last week alone, within 5 days of each other, I had 4 friends that lost their pets and a friend that lost her mother-in-law within 5 days of each other. Like every single day one of those situations happened. And part of the question was, why? You know, why is this happening? And we can have all kinds of logical answers about why it's happening. You know, the person is old, or the animals are old, or it was their time, and things like that interest intellect. But more importantly is looking at the bigger picture of things in a sense of why. And oftentimes, one of the greatest gifts that comes from the loss of someone's life at any time is it opens the door for...
You gotta talk louder.
Oh, you can? Okay. It opens the door for us to connect more with the spirit world. Oftentimes when we have experienced loss, we want to understand the spirit world more, and we start asking for signs and asking our loved ones and our animals to show us that they're around us and that they are still existing in another form. You know, energy cannot be created, cannot be destroyed, it just changes forms. And we can hear that and we understand the concept. But when we have someone that passes and we don't necessarily see that person again in physical form, we don't necessarily always believe it. And so we have an opportunity to learn to trust our sixth sense, to learn to trust our intuition instead of just the 5 senses. And we've got to really tune in to the energy of the spirit world around us. And that love that we had for those people or those animals, it never ends. It doesn't cease to exist simply because their physical body is gone. The spirit within us, you know, the light, if you will, or the energy that keeps our heart beating, that is continuous. That is what never ends. You know, it's the energy of cannot be created, cannot be destroyed. It just changes form. So it goes into a new form, a form that is oftentimes invisible to the human eye. But on a soul level, we can tune into it. We can feel them. We can see them. We can hear them. We can know them. We can even smell them if we're willing to open our minds and open our hearts to believe. And so I found myself last week talking with several people around helping them to understand how their loved ones or their pets might show up. One of my friends lost his dog after 15 years and was really struggling with that and trying to say, you know, hey, look for signs. Pay attention to the messages you're receiving, your gut feelings around him being there, your excuse me, your dreams, your sense of maybe him sitting next to the bed, or when you get up in the morning, sometimes people feel like they hear them drinking their water, or if it's one of your loved ones, then maybe your mother would call you every morning and you swear you hear your phone ring, or your phone does ring but there's nobody there, or things like that. Part of this is learning how to have some kind of faith. And for people that weren't raised with faith or weren't raised to trust, then this can be a little bit challenging. But my experience with transition and or with the death process is that most of the time, although many people go through a time where they just shut down or disconnect, which is very unhealthy, but most of the time as they move out of that, they come to a place of recognition. And that's usually how people come along my path, almost always it's through death, divorce, or disease that I come in contact with people in my class, and in my line of work, and even through private sessions and things like that. So what I want to talk about tonight, and I want to answer some of your questions, is the reality that love never ends. And I really truly believe that if we can stay in our heart, you will know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you stay in your heart. Now, if you go into your head, you will not know that. And your head is what keeps you in pain. And it's what keeps you distant from the spirit world. If you are willing to go into your heart, then that's what keeps the love flowing. That's what keeps you connected. That's what gives you the validation and the acknowledgement that spirit is right there, that your loved ones are right there. And as hard as this may be to hear for those of you that have experienced loss, whether it was last week or 10 years ago, it is a choice. You get to choose where you're putting your attention, where you're putting your focus, and where your energy goes. You get to choose, am I going to be in my heart or am I going to be in my head? Am I going to walk this journey from an ego place and be angry and bitter and hurt and sad? Or am I going to walk this journey from a heart base? Am I going to look for the signs? Am I going to connect with the love? Am I going to keep my heart open so that I can see and feel and hear and know my loved ones? And I understand that may be challenging to come from the heart. I'm not saying that it's easy. What I'm saying is it's necessary if you want to feel your loved one's presence. And most of the time when people come we cross paths, I cross paths with someone, it's because death has expanded them to a place where they felt enough pain that they no longer want to feel that. And they want to feel the passion, the connection, the life force energy, the oneness, the love again. And the bottom line is, it is a choice. Where do you want to direct your energy? So I want to open it up to what questions do you have around the death process, around transition, around spirit, people leaving the physical and going into spirit, what the spirit world looks like, what happens to the body. I'm open to any questions that you might have. So feel free to, if you're watching this live, go ahead and enter your questions in the comments section.
So you're open to questions about, can you tell me about this loved one or that?
Not particular loved ones, just general questions around transition. Yes, just general questions. I'm not doing readings today. I'm answering general questions. If you're interested in readings, check out Spirit Talk next Tuesday. But as you're writing your questions, what I'd like to discuss is, and share with you is, when I say love never ends, what it means is that if you've had a heart connection with someone, let's say it's your grandma. Let's say that you spent every summer with your grandma, you looked forward to it every year, and you just adored her, and she you. And she passes. You still carry that energy, that energetic connection, all those memories, all those feelings, all that time that you had together. You still carry that in your heart. And any time that you choose to be present in your heart and stay in your heart, it helps you to raise your vibration. So the more you stay in your heart, and the more you stay in a place of love and remembering from that loving place, your vibration starts to raise. And as your vibration raises, you then have the ability to connect with that particular loved one, yourself. Now, will you understand how they're showing up? Maybe, maybe not. Will you recognize the signs? Maybe, maybe not. That's part of what I want to talk about today. But will they come through? Can they come through? Do they come through? Absolutely. The challenge is that you stay in a high enough vibration so that you can tune into them. And when you're in anger or pain or guilt or shame or depression, you're in a lower vibration. And I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm not judging that at all. I'm just saying it's a lower vibration. And if you want to tune in to your loved ones who've passed, you have to be in a higher vibration. Spirit world lives up here, not down here. So we've got to raise our vibration in order to meet with them somewhere here in the middle. There are a lot of people that come to me as a medium because they want me to connect with their loved ones. And I do that. But more importantly than me connecting with them is sharing a message with you that you can connect with them. That you have the ability, if you had a heart connection with them, to be able to connect with them yourself. And it's likely that they've been speaking to you, and I don't mean speaking verbally like my voice that you're hearing right now, but they've been connecting with you, they've been showing you signs and symbols and moving energy in a way that you would know their presence if you were out of your head and in your heart. And so oftentimes, as I start to give people examples, and they go, oh my gosh, yes, that happened. Yeah, I felt her sitting next to my bed, but I just didn't believe it because I didn't see her. Or I heard someone walking in the kitchen, and my grandma used to always go in the kitchen in the morning and make me bagels, but I just didn't believe it because when I got up, she wasn't there. But that's still her way of impressioning upon you that she's around. But you can't analyze it, and you can't question it, and you can't try to find more and more and more proof. Spirit doesn't feel the need to prove anything. Spirit just is. It just is. When you're born, there's not a class we take to prove that you're born. You just are. Here you are. Well, it's the same thing. There's no need to prove existence, so to speak. More so, it's here I am. Now you have to learn how to trust it and believe it. They can't force us to believe it. They can't force us to even pay attention to the signs. All they can do is offer them. They're putting them out there. It's up to us to hear them, to see them, to feel them, to know them, and to believe their presence. So if you have a heart connection with someone that's passed, you, yourself, have the ability to connect with them. You may need a medium. You may want a medium to help you understand, to learn, to expand, to grow. Sure. What I'm trying to say is that you have that ability too. You may not have the ability to do it for other people, but you certainly have the ability to connect with the loved ones that you've lost. So, I'm open to questions. Do we have some? Okay. So I'm open to some questions, and we'll just kind of let the conversation go from there.
Okay, how do we transition easier without feeling confused?
So the way I'm taking that is, how do we transition through the death process? Is that how you're understanding it? Okay. So as a being, if I'm walking through the death process, how do I transition in a way that's easier, so that's not confusing to me? You know, I guess what we have to do is we have to deal with our fears and acknowledge those fears, and maybe get some information. Maybe talk to some people and tune into what your fear is around that creates a confusion, or what your frustration is around that creates a confusion. So you need to look at the confusion first. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from a place of, I don't understand? Is it coming from, I don't have any belief system to know anything different? Is it coming from a place of just fear because I was brought up a certain way, and so now I'm afraid I'm going to go to hell because I smoked cigarettes when I was 15 years old? So we'd have to look at where the confusion is coming from. What I would say behind confusion is probably there's some fear. And if we recognized that there's nothing to be afraid of, and that spirit world is just a continuation of the spirit within us in another form, and that we will see our loved ones again. It's just kind of like they went on a long trip, or we're going on a long trip, and we'll meet back up. And so I think we would need to identify where is the confusion coming from first, and addressing that. And in doing that, I think it would help the transition process. There are people that walk through their death journey in absolute fear, and that's part of their process. And there are people that walk through their death experience with absolute excitement and joy, and that's part of their process. And there are people in the middle. And I wouldn't say that one is right and one is wrong, but certainly one is of a higher vibration and of more grace and ease, and one is of a lower vibration, more resistance and struggle. So not good or bad or right or wrong, but absolutely very different. And we could choose to walk our experience through love and light and joy and ease and grace and excitement and possibility.
Okay. When one crosses over, how do they feel? Are they resistant to go home? Are they saddened? How do they feel?
It depends. It depends on the being. Yes, that does happen with some. Some are resistant to go. Some are afraid to go. Some are afraid of leaving the people that are here. And then there are some that are excited to go, that are ecstatic, that are so ready to be in this new experience. And I don't necessarily find that one or the other happens based on how they're leaving. Meaning, I don't necessarily see that when they're dying of a long-term illness versus being in a car accident, that one happens more than another. It's really based on that person's vibration. And so there'll be people that have fears, oftentimes because of the way they were brought up, or their religious background, or their own belief systems, that they've done things that are wrong and they're going to have to pay for them, or they're going to be punished, or they're going to go to hell, and whatever that happens to look like. In my experience, there is no hell. Hell is what we create it to be, what we believe it to be, but that it isn't an actual place that we go. There is what I would call a lower vibrational place and a higher vibrational place. And some people call the higher vibrational place heaven, and some people call the lower vibrational place hell. But I haven't experienced them as being either one of those, but more so it's just tuned into vibration. Just like you might meet someone that's a very outgoing person, and you might be somebody that's very internal. It isn't that one's good and one's bad. They're just different. It's just different.
Okay. When a soul transitions, what decides to what vibration they go to?
Based on the vibration they are here. So, let me try to explain it the best I can. If you are, I'm going to use my cup. I don't know, can you see in here, Chris, how full the cup is? Mm-hmm. Okay, so through the camera you can? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, let's just say that this cup is a being, and that this is, if it was full to the top, that's 100% vibration. That's the highest vibration they can be. So this is a physical person. Let's just say this cup is representing me. I'll use me as an example. So this is representing me. So the level that it's full, I would say that's probably about 75%. That's going to be my eyeball guess here. So this is the line of the cup. So let's say that my vibration is this high. Okay, I could be all the way up here, 100%, but I'm only right here. And again, this isn't good or bad. It's just giving us a measurement, so to speak, not to judge. So when I drop my body, which would be the cup, okay, the water, the energy that I am, the water inside is still going to vibrate. That's still my vibration. So if I drop the cup, my body, I die, and I go into the spirit world, I still carry the same vibration, same energy with me in the spirit world. So if I'm a lower, let's say I'm at 25% here, right here, then I'm going to, when I drop my body, go into that same vibration in the spirit world. All I'm doing is dropping my body. If I'm here at the 75%, then I'm going to go to that space in the spirit world. It's kind of the best analogy I can give you, and it's a pretty good one actually, because it gives you an idea that the cup is the container. The body is the container. What's within the body, the spirit, I'm not talking about the blood and guts, but the spirit within us, within us is what the water is representing. That carries on. That continues. And whatever level of vibration we have here, then we move into that same basic area in the spirit world. So if you were looking at somebody that's 75%, maybe that would look more like a heavenish area. And if somebody was more 25%, maybe that would look like a hellish area to you. But for a person who's been in that vibration, it's not going to feel like it's a higher or lower vibration. That's who they are. So that's where their vibration is going to fit in. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay.
How do you know when someone is truly passed over? Will they send some sort of sign to let you know?
Well, my experience is the majority of people do pass over when they die. And I'm not saying everyone. There's certainly extenuating circumstances. So there are people that get stuck, for lack of a better word here, or don't realize that they're dead and hang out for a lot longer. But I'd say that there's more often, more than less, the spirits do transition. Will they show you a sign? Sometimes, not always, depending on their need and your need to connect. So I can't say that without a shadow of a doubt it's 100% that it happens. What I can say is the majority of the time, yes, they're showing you signs, and quite often you're not even noticing them. That part is your responsibility. You have got to be in your heart. You can't be in your head. You've got to be present in what's happening around you and aware. And when you're in your head, you're not present usually, and you're not aware. So there could be signs going on around you. You could even be hearing things that you just discount as oh, that's weird that happened, instead of, that's a sign. If you're in your head, you don't recognize or tune into the energy or the vibration that Spirit is putting in front of you. And so, yes, the majority of the time do they show you a sign that they're with you still? Yes. It's, do you catch it or not? And so part of your work then is to learn how to be more intuitive and be more open and be more aware and be more connected and be more present so that you can recognize when your loved ones are around you. You know, for an example, I had an experience after my grandmother died. She died in 2000, and she died she had Alzheimer's, and she walked out of her Alzheimer's assisted living facility and froze to death on New Year's Eve. And so about, gosh, I'm not going to remember the time frame very well. I think it was about 2 weeks, maybe a little bit earlier, 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. My phone rang. And it was my grandma's old phone number that she hadn't had for like 7 or 8 years. And there was nobody on the other line. And this was, you know, obviously 14 years ago. So it was my home phone that rang, not my cell phone, my home phone that rang. It was her phone number and nobody was on the other end. And she hadn't had that phone for 7 or 8 years. Now, if I wanted to go into my head, I'd be like, how the hell is that even possible? Okay, because we'd go, okay, that's not even possible. She hasn't lived there for 7 or 8 years. Who would be calling me? You just go on and on and on. My head would have taken me in all kinds of ways. And instead, I said, thank you, Grandma, for letting me know you're okay. We got to stay in our heart. I don't need to figure out how energy, our loved ones are energy now, how they can manipulate energy. That's not my job. I can manipulate energy. I can move energy. Why wouldn't they be able to? Because they don't have a body? Nope. Why would it be impossible for them to create experiences here? Why is it any different? Next.
When you feel someone near you, how do you know who it is?
That's a great question. Sometimes you don't. And that's the honest answer. Sometimes you don't. It takes practice. It takes a lot of presence, and it takes discerning. Discernment is something that is hard to teach. And so the best thing that I could say is that when you feel the energy of someone around you, what I would do, and what I certainly still do to this day, is I ask, who is it? Who's there? And ordinarily, I'll get an impression, like a person's face will pop into my head, or their name will come to me, or I'll hear their voice. So I'll get an impression that will tell me who it is. There are other times where I don't know. I can feel the presence of different energies, and I don't know who they are. They don't. The best way I can explain it is they don't come in fully, if that makes sense. So, like, for example, I had an experience just a couple weeks ago. I was in Texas, and we were staying in an old hotel, and now I can't remember the name of it. The Gunter Inn in San Antonio. And when we walked in, I felt the energy of a lot of different people that were not physical people. And so I asked the bell guy when he came up, I said, is this hotel haunted? Now, I used that word haunted because I knew that he would relate to that word. Not because I feel like they're haunting and trying to give negative experiences, but just that there are spirits present in this space. And he said, yeah, absolutely. They're always talking about this place being haunted. And so I didn't know who the spirits were. They didn't come in fully in the sense of I didn't see them. I wasn't even impressioning them as to visually who they were or what they looked like, but I could feel their presence. And so when I asked him that question and he answered, I was like, okay, yeah, I can for sure feel him. I don't know who it is. Well, then 2 days later, one morning I was in the tub, and one of them pulled his vibration strong enough to give me an impression of him and sat on the toilet next to me. I was in the tub and showed himself to me, meaning that he appeared to me so that I could see his physical body. This particular man didn't have any legs. I think he was a war vet of some kind. And he didn't give me a name or anything else. He just allowed me to see him as impressioning to me his presence, wanting to be acknowledged, basically. And so what I typically do is when I feel spirit around, I don't always ask who it is because a lot of times it doesn't matter to me. So if it doesn't matter to me, then I don't ask. And when it does matter to me, like for many of you, it's a loved one you're wanting to connect with, or maybe it's your father and your brother have both passed and you're trying to discern which one it is, then I would ask. And you'll get a sense, your mind will go to that person's name or their face will pop up. You'll experience something that will give you the validation that that's who it is. And then there's other times where sometimes people have a hard time discerning, is it my loved one, or is it an angel, or is it a guide? And if you're not discerning it, then in my opinion, and this is how I do it for myself, then it doesn't matter. Then it's just, hey, I'm grateful you're here, thank you for guiding me. And not spend so much time in your head trying to figure out who, what, where, when, or why they're here. Heart, not head. Any more?
Yeah.
Yeah, lots.
When
I can sit here all night and answer questions.
When there is a sudden departure, for example, car, motorcycle accident, will the soul spirit stay with his or her body, as in standing outside looking as if what has just happened?
Mm-hmm. That does happen. It doesn't necessarily have to stay with it for a long time, but oftentimes, my experience, when the spirit world comes back and talks to me, is that when people die in what we would call a tragedy or a tragic way, that's kind of more of an instantaneous type of thing, or like you're saying, an accident or something like that. Oftentimes, their spirit literally checks out, and they kind of hover is a good word, over the experience. So they witness it. It's like they're watching what's happening to the physical body. Their spirit already leaves. They're already, literally, the best way I would say it is disconnected so much from the body. Now, there are people who say that we do that when we go to sleep at night, that we go out into the spirit world and we do our thing, we come back into our body and we disconnect, not unplug, so we don't disconnect completely, but meaning that we leave, we go out and do our things, and then we come back. Well, it's kind of the same thing, and the best way that I can compare this is when I had my oldest son. I just turned 19 years old, and I had a very difficult pregnancy, difficult labor. I had a stroke while I was in labor, and then I developed a severe infection. And so for 3 weeks, I was in my hospital bed with 106.3 degree temperature. And literally, I was just really out of my mind because I was in so much physical pain that I literally just left my body. And there's not much that I remember about being in my physical body, but I witnessed so much that happened to my body from a higher perspective. And that's oftentimes the way that the spirit world expresses or shows me what they did during that accident. So, for example, a guy died in a motorcycle accident, and he showed me that he watched the ambulance come, he watched the firemen come, he watched his son come, and saw everybody there at the accident scene, and he was still physically alive at that time, but he left because the body was in tremendous trauma. And so he wasn't feeling the physical pain, he was instead observing what was happening to the body. And that is common. I can't say it happens all the time, but it is common. So a lot of times people say, did they feel any pain? I would say, in my experience, probably 85% of the time, when somebody starts to walk their transition journey through accident or whatever, because their soul knows, they leave their body at the impact of that trauma. And so most of the time, the spirits come back to me and say they didn't feel anything. They were here 1 second, gone the next, and or if they were alive, that they checked out of their body and were more of an observer of it. I can't say, and I wish I could, but I can't say that that's always, but it's often that that's what I hear.
Okay. What is the best way to develop evidential mediumship?
That is a great question that you probably couldn't ask somebody that's not an evidential medium, which is not me. But let me answer that question to the best of my ability. An evidential medium is someone that is a medium in order to prove that life exists after this physical experience. So they are looking for evidence in order to make it clear that there is a spirit world. And that's typically more of their purpose. I'm more of a, I guess I would say, spiritual medium, where my purpose in mediumship is to create healing and to create closure, and to help people to move forward in their life. That doesn't mean that with either one, that an evidential medium can't help create healing and closure, and it doesn't mean that a spiritual medium can't help or can't provide evidentiary information. But the goal, intention, is a little bit different with an evidentiary medium and more of a spiritual medium or a psychic medium, I think. And so the best way to develop that, though, there are a lot of ways to practice it. Get into a development circle where you're with people you don't know is one of the best ways. start doing readings and ask for specific information to connect you with these loved ones that they're wanting to connect with. But one of the ways that you can practice, that I tell people a lot, is practice on the news. Practice in some of the shows that are more of a reality-based show, where it's like trying to figure out what happened after. Try and tune into the spirit of that person and get some evidentiary information. But the best way is to get into groups where there's people that you don't know and do readings on them, and it's a process, and it's your development, and everybody develops a little bit differently. For me, my focus has always been much more on the emotional connection and the healing process with people, and so I tend to bring a lot of the emotion and experience that way to my clients. And certainly there are things always that show up that give people that validation of who it is. But I think it's just the goal's a little bit different. And they're both great. It just depends on what you're looking for.
Okay, I heard there is a life review after you die. Can you comment on that?
I can, but I'm not dead, so just so you know. A lot of people look at the life review and they think you're going to be judged, and based on what you did and didn't do, then it's a right and wrong and good and bad and that type of thing. That's not been my experience with those that have come back to me and helped me understand the process afterwards. But what I have heard, and what does seem to be quite common information from the spirit world in my experience, is that there's a life review that once you transition, you leave this physical body, and your spirit, the best way I can say is moves up. Well, it's kind of like going up an escalator, so to speak, but a light vibration. There's this healing energy, healing lights, whatever you want to call it, vibration that helps us move to this place. And during that experience, this life review, we have an opportunity to experience all of the feelings that we've felt and or I don't want to say projected, but other people have felt from us. We get both of those experiences. And so there's nobody judging us or condemning us or even applauding us in the sense of during a life review. It's more of just an overview of all of the energy we've put out and how it's affected people, and all of the energy we've brought in and how that's affected us. And then from there, we go into what I often call a healing space. And some people are there for a lot longer than others, oftentimes depending on their vibration. My dear friend and teacher in hospice training, Dannion Brinkley, is someone who had several near-death experiences, and he's died, God, probably 10 times by now, but when I knew him, I think he'd had 4 near-death experiences. And every time he'd go, they'd send him back, and he's like, they don't want me over there, and I can't, and so he keeps coming back to this physical world. But one of the things that he said was that after one of his near-death experiences, I don't remember which one, he started he started intentionally hugging everybody all the time. And he said, because I want to feel that hug on the other side. Every hug I give, I get to feel. And I hug with my heart. And so he said, I hug everybody selfishly. He says that they think I'm hugging them because I want to give them a hug. I'm hugging them because I want the hug later. And I thought that was cute, and I've always remembered it because that validated some of the information that has come through to me about that life review, that we experience all of the energy that not only we have have received, but that we have given. And so I think that's a great reminder. Hug everybody. Okay?
Okay, what is the... Hang tight, it scrolled a minute. How do you make that connection with others when you don't have that heart connection, like someone you never met?
Well, I'm not quite sure I understand the question. So,
well, you know how you say you're always the best medium if you have a heart connection
yes.
with somebody, or
well,
what if you don't?
So yeah, so that's the thing is if you don't have a heart connection with someone and you're not gifted in mediumship, then you may not make that connection. So, not everybody is a medium for everyone else. Yes, you can be a medium with people that you have a heart connection with. That doesn't mean you're a medium for everyone else. And so I guess that's how we differentiate it. So for someone who is a medium, we don't have to make the heart connection with them in order to connect with them. We tune into the energy of both the person, our client, and the spirit world, raise our vibration to a level that the spirit world can come to us, and we connect between the two of those energies. If you are not a medium and you're trying to connect with someone that you don't have a heart connection with, then you may be more challenged with that. That doesn't mean you might not be able to take some classes to develop it. If you're very intuitive and gifted that way, you might just need some practice, some development. But I can't say that, I wouldn't say that everybody is a medium, but what I would say is that everybody has the ability to be a medium if you have a heart connection.
If someone passes with the belief that there is nothing beyond this physical, does that become their reality?
No, they get surprised. They get surprised. Does it become their reality in the sense that oftentimes they in what I would call a healing space, they are there to almost adjust their experience. Or they have that experience for a short amount of time until they're ready to shift their vibration into a different place. But, you've got to remember that our soul is continuously expanding and evolving, not just when we're physical beings. And so we are growing and expanding and learning in the spirit world as well. And so people that didn't believe that they had anything on the other side, when they get there, they may experience that belief for a time until they expand and grow, and then they'll be surprised. So then it's like, oh, wait, this is a whole different thing than what I thought it was.
So do souls have anxiety and panic in heaven and pain with a lower vibration?
I wouldn't say that any of those words would be energy that we would connect with on a spirit level. No. What I would say is that when they're in a lower vibration, they have the opportunity to receive a lot more love to help them to heal. And sometimes there's still resistance to that. I can't say that they have physical pain because I've never experienced that. So I can't say they don't, but I haven't experienced it. I have experienced some emotion with them in a lower vibration in connection to concern around people still in this physical realm. And that's usually when they've more recently passed, because they're still quite tuned into the energy of those of us here. And, a lot of people will ask, well, so when the spirit world, when people go to the spirit world, do they care about what we're doing here? When they evolve and grow, no. But oftentimes when they first transition, they're very connected to what's happening here, oftentimes, not always. And they're connected to our pain and our fear. So something that we can do for the spirit world is to be more joyful and to be more to be happier and to enjoy our lives. And oftentimes people put themselves in this cycle of punishment and keep themselves stuck there because, you know, there's kind of a belief system, and I don't know that this is conscious or not, but there's kind of a belief system that, well, my loved one's dead, so how could I be happy? I shouldn't be happy. That's wrong to be happy. I feel guilty if I'm happy because my son died last month, or because my husband died a year ago, or because my mother died 2 weeks ago. So I don't have the right to be happy because they're dead. And it would be the opposite, is the higher your vibration is, the less they're tuned in to the lower vibration of you, and the more they can focus on their own journey instead of being attracted vibrationally to what's happening with you. So we can do that for them. We can help them. Okay, we'll take a couple more.
Are there steps to practice to help raise your vibration from head to heart?
Absolutely. You know, I wrote a book a few years ago, 3 years ago, called Invoking the Archangels, and some of you have probably read it. And in that book, in the very beginning pages, maybe page 10 or 12, I have a chart that shows you the different vibrational levels and where we as physical beings are versus deceased energies versus spirit guides versus angels and archangels and ascended masters, and our work being that we have to raise our vibration to be able to connect with them. The other part of that book is it's a 9-step process to heal your heart. And absolutely, it pulls you out of the ego, out of the head, and into the heart. And the 9-step process is learning how to basically get from a place of becoming aware of our challenges or our difficulties. So it's having awareness and moving into a place of appreciation for the experience. So for example, if we were going to talk about the 9 steps in connection with the death of a loved one, the first step, step 1, is become aware. Become aware of what your pain is, or what your challenge is, or what your frustration is. So, okay, I'm aware that I'm angry that my loved one passed. Okay, so that might be where we start. Then we've got to go through the 9-step process to get to a place where I can appreciate the experience. I can find the value in the experience. I can forgive myself and or others so that I can see the gift in this experience. And so we go through the 9-step process, and that is having the awareness, it's taking action, it's making choices, it's taking responsibility, it's learning how to maintain our own energy, it's releasing the pain and filling ourselves up. And when we get to a place that, you know, and people do them in a variety of different directions. I think I missed looking within. So when we go through this process, we get to a place of appreciation and gratitude. Now, that does not mean that you may never in your life say, I'm glad my grandma died. You may not ever say that. And that's okay. But you could find value in the fact that she did die and in the way she died. So that there is acceptance and appreciation for the experience and the journey that you got to walk. I'll just walk you through this for myself. So in my experience with my grandmother dying, I'll use her since I talked about her a minute ago, my awareness was my grandmother died in the cold by herself and she froze to death. That was a shocking awareness. We all knew that she would die eventually. She had Alzheimer's, but her body was pretty strong. And so we all knew we were probably in for a long road with that Alzheimer's. And when she died in the form that she died, it was a shock to everyone. Walking that 9-step process, I got to a place of being able to appreciate the fact that she left in a way that changed lives. And I would dare say saved lives. because in her going out that way versus staying around for a couple more years and dying in her bed with her loved ones around her, which certainly was also a possibility. In her dying in the way she did, she had a family that was enraged, and it activated many of us in the form of making changes, speaking up. We went to Washington, D.C. and spoke at the Senate hearings and things like that to change some of the laws and some of the rules around caregivers and ratios and all those kinds of things. And so in my appreciation, I could appreciate the fact that she chose, not consciously, but she chose to go in a way that would create awareness and that would change people's lives and save people's lives. So that's where I could find my appreciation. And so when we're talking about how do we get there, that 9-step process helps us to raise our vibration to a place to get to appreciation. The other thing that you can do is bring more joy into your life. That's the simplest, easiest thing. Bring more joy into your life. Joy is the highest expression of love, and it will help you raise your vibration to a level that is that moves you into a place where you can then start connecting and communicating with the spirit world, because they're up here and we're down here. And we need to raise our vibrations so that we can tune in with them somewhere in here. And so, joy. What brings you joy? Not what's supposed to bring you joy, not what brings your sister joy or your husband joy. What brings you joy? And doing those things daily, consistently, and in a committed fashion, meaning I'm committed to being joyful. I am committed to loving myself every day and doing things that I enjoy doing. Now, that might not be for 12 hours of the day. It might be for a half hour. It might be for 45 minutes. It might be for 12 hours. It depends on my day. But I'm going to bring joy intentionally into every day that I live. That is a great goal. Okay, you got another one?
Are you ever scared of a spirit?
No. No. Now that doesn't mean that if I walked into my dark bedroom and felt like there was someone in the room and walked around the corner and my son jumped out and said boo, that wouldn't scare me. That wouldn't be a spirit. But I just want you to understand that, you know, I can get creeped out by, you know, sounds or somebody coming around the corner or something like that, absolutely. But I'm not afraid of the spirit world. I haven't had, you know, in my new book that'll come out in a few months, I wrote about a couple of the experiences that I did have that did scare me a little bit. But it was because I wasn't understanding what it was. So I was afraid that I wasn't safe. And when I learned that I actually always was safe and that it was my perception, my fears, that actually got projected onto the experience, no, I don't have that. And I can't say that I never have, because certainly, even when I was younger, I would have some experiences where I'd be like, okay, what's that? You know, kind of the, I remember being 5 or 6 years old and just knowing that there was a man in my closet and and I'd see this dark, shadowy kind of energy in my closet. But, so I had some of those when I was younger, but not anything that I would say. I'd be much more afraid of physical people than I am with spirit people. Okay, I'll answer one more, Chris.
Okay, 4 of my loved ones have passed. I feel 2 of them close, but not the other 2. Why is that?
You know, that's a great question. One of the questions that I think that I answered in the book, somebody asked a question similar to that. And, you know, I can't answer that specifically because I don't know necessarily why, unless they came to me and told me. But I can give you some of the assumptions or some of the ideas that I've heard in the past. Sometimes it's not necessary. You're doing okay. Somebody else is covering you, meaning they know that that Elizabeth and Aunt Jan are with you. Sometimes it's because they're still in more of a healing space. When they're in a healing space, it doesn't mean that they can't come to visit you, but it takes more attention and more energy to shift their vibration and lower it enough to come into this space. And so sometimes they're they're doing more to take care of themselves, which is good if we can look at it that way. Sometimes they don't feel like there's anything unresolved, and other times they're not in a place to be ready to connect with the physical realm. I have had experiences where spirit people have said, you know, I'm not ready to even connect in that vibration yet. Almost like I don't feel strong enough. Like I don't know if I could hold my own. I feel like I'm going to get sucked back in. Because it does feel so, oftentimes, so light and so free. It's kind of like when you were a teenager and you left home for the first time and you weren't homesick. And you left home and you just loved it. And then you had to go back. And it's like, oh shit, I got to go back. And so that's the analogy I could give you. And so it's like, oh, I'm going back. And so I think sometimes it's just that it's not time yet. So it could be any and all of those, and more things too. Those are the ones that tend to be kind of common. Okay, so those were great questions, lots of questions. Do we have lots more still? Yeah, there's lots more still. So let's do this. If you want to go to my Facebook fan page, which is Sunny Dawn Johnston fan page, it's the picture where I have a hat on Facebook, and post your questions. I'll pick a couple more to answer sometime tonight. I'm not going to answer all of them, but I'll pick a couple more to answer. So just put your question in there, and I'll answer a couple of them. You can do it on my personal page too, actually. It doesn't matter which one you do it on, but I'll answer a couple of them. The other thing that I would love for you to do is, because those were some great questions and some that are a little bit different. I'm going to put together a little book with questions and answers, just similar to just what we just did, to have as like a PDF that I'm going to create for when my book comes out. So I may very well use some of those questions. So if you have more than one, go ahead and put them in, and I'll answer a few just to kind of give you some extra response. We do have a webcast group. Some of you are probably already in. It's Sunny Dawn Johnston Webcasts, and you could ask your questions in there too. So any of those places is fine. What I want to do is I want to give you guys the opportunity to recognize that you have the ability to connect with these loved ones. And some people feel like they can't. They have to go to somebody else to do it. That belief is going to get in your way. Some people feel like, well, I haven't seen it, so it's not going to happen. That belief is going to get in your way. You get to be right, is what I'm trying to say. You get to be right. So if you say, well, that's too easy, or it can't be that way, then you're going to be right, and you're right. And what I'm going to suggest to you is, you don't want to be right, you want to be happy. And so I'm opening myself up to receive the connection with my loved ones. And so tonight, it might be a good idea for those of you that feel guided, when you go to bed, instead of being in your head and saying, okay, come to me and show me. And I used to do this. This is why I know. Come to me and show me a butterfly. And if I see a butterfly, then I for sure know it's you. And I want to see it on Tuesday because my schedule is more open on Tuesday and I'll be more present. That is not how the spirit world works. The spirit world works by saying, okay, you get present all the time, and I will pop in when my vibration works. Not when you are ready, when I'm ready. So it teaches us to be present all the time. Because if we're present all the time, then spirit can be speaking to us and connecting with us much more often. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to continue to. It's not necessary for them. Our relationships are supposed to evolve and grow and expand. And just like when you first met your husband or your wife, and maybe you spent every single minute together, and then as you grow and expand, life happens and you do other things and you're not with each other every single second of the day. You're not supposed to be. They're not going to be either. But certainly they want to give you the opportunity to know that they're still around and that they love you and they're present and that they're coming to the birthday party and they saw the celebration and they know you put that memorial bench down and thank you for picking up the pennies, and yes, the feathers are meaning this, and yes, when you hear this song on the radio, it's a sign from me, and all of those things. So maybe tonight when you go to bed, You could open your heart, literally open your arms and open your heart and say, I'm open to receive messages from Spirit for my highest good and in the best form for me for now. I am willing to be present. And just say that over and over again a few times as you drift off to sleep. You may have a dream about your loved one, which is the easiest way for them to come through. Or you may have an awareness of a dream. Sometimes people wake up and they feel like they had an experience, but they don't quite remember it. Well, that means they've come to you, and their energy is still present. But you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to jump into your head, and so you just go with the feeling of, that I can feel them. And that's what we have to do. Got to get out of your head and into your heart. So I have a couple things for those of you that are interested. I do have a new book coming out in a couple months. It comes out October 1st, called The Love Never Ends, Messages from the Other Side. And it's about all of the things that we've talked about and much, much more. A lot of stories to help you understand how Spirit is speaking to us. There's some meditations, some automatic writing, some exercises, some quizzes to help you to recognize how Spirit might be speaking to you more, what your style might be, and then a good-sized Q&A also in the back of the book. If you're interested in getting that book, because we were doing a class on this specifically today, I thought I would offer you a discount on it if you want to pre-order the book. So if you pre-order the book, it'll come with a message from me in the book and signed. And we'll take $3 off. So the books are going to be $17, so they'll be $14. And so if you go to the store, if you go to my website, sunnydawnjohnston.com, and go to the boutique, in the boutique, or actually you can get it right on my website, I think, right on sunnydawnjohnston.com, the book is right there as well. The Invoking the Archangels book is on top, and then the Love Never Ends book is right below that. And if you order it within the next 3 days, you will get $3 off, so it'll be $14. And the code is The Love Never Ends. That's the name of the book. The Love Never Ends with an S. So you put that into the coupon code, and it'll give you your $3 off. Did we set up the soul transitions? Is it the same code, or? It's just discounted. Oh, okay. There's also a CD that I created about 5 or 6 years ago called Soul Transitions. It teaches a little more on this subject about what happens before a body transitions, what happens during the transition of the body, and what happens after the transition of the body. There's also a couple of songs on there that Chris wrote that are beautiful about connecting with Spirit, and then there's a meditation to connect with your loved one. It's called Soul Transitions, and we put it on sale in the store for $10. So if you're interested in either one of those, then you can go ahead and purchase those, and we'll get them to you in the mail in the next couple of days. Lastly, I just want to remind you that yes, connecting with Spirit is a gift, absolutely, but we are all Spirit embodied, and everybody can connect. We connect in different ways. There are different experiences, some more than others, but everybody has that ability. You have to believe that in order for yourself to open up to seeing it. And if you're willing to do that, you'll have an experience. If you're not willing to do that, you'll still have an experience, but you won't know you are. You won't recognize it, and you'll miss out. And you'll get to be right. See, I didn't have an experience. So try to stay in your heart and open yourself up to the fact that it's happening. Why would it be any different for you than it is for me? Isn't that a good question? Why? There's no real good answer to that. So, thank you all so much for joining me. Please go in on my Facebook pages. If you're not on Facebook, you can shoot a couple of emails. I may still put them in the PDF that I'm creating. I may still do that. I may pick a couple to answer. Usually when I say I answer 2, I usually answer 10 or 15. So I don't know. It'll depend on my energy tonight. But thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, if you liked the movie, or if you liked the TV show, if you watched the TV show A Seance With, if you liked it or loved it, please comment on that on my Facebook page, on LMN's Facebook page. Send feedback to them and let them know that you loved it too. We would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the night.